Hello everyone, this is the Lumibricks Midnight Haunted Mansion set. It has over 2,600 pieces. The retail price is $130 US. I got mine for less than that. So typically you should be able to get at least a 10% discount off of anything from Lumibricks. You can use my my affiliate code for that, or they'll do day one sales on their own website or on Amazon. In this case though, they had it for 40% off, or under $80 US for this, because they had some mistakes in the printed instructions for the very first batch of these that went out. And they were very, very, very proactive in getting the word out to everybody that they had those errors. They fixed the errors in the PDF, the online version, before they even made this available. But they did go ahead and put a 40% discount across the board on the entire first production wave for everybody. They did it in Europe first, and then they did it for the United States and also for Canada. And as a result, I got this for under $80 US. And it's just another little bit of evidence that this company wants to win by doing things right, by putting out good products with good quality and treating their customers right. In this case, I believe they made no profit off of the entire first run of this because of that ridiculously high discount that they put out there. Now, this one has a funky little side build of this Ghostbusting vehicle, and then it comes with 3 figures. We'll look at the side things later, so there are the other 2. But first, of course, I want to focus on the main thing that you're paying for, no matter whether you got it on discount or at the regular price. Well, you shouldn't get it at the regular price. Again, at least some kind of discount. $117 at the most should be. Overall, this is built on a 32 by 32 platform, which is good. They're increasingly standardizing on that. They should do their smaller buildings on a 16 by 32 platform. And there's a tiny bit of overlap, like over here with the leaf and with the tree up here, which, you can move that out of the way. But unfortunately, this overlap of the eaves right here, that does stick out. So if you do want to put this up against another building that is on a 32 by 32 base and goes all the way to the edge, that's something to watch out for. Hopefully in the future, they'll kind of try to avoid some of that a little bit. This has a ton of prints, once again, as usual for this company. So you got the print there, like the little tire iron that's done in the matching gray color. 2 different prints for the stepstones along the way. You got prints for the scuffed up panels on the porch. You might barely be able to see it, but back there, the door has a slight print down on the base of it. Yeah, it might be a little bit difficult to get that to actually focus in there. Let me see if I can manually get it in there. You might just see a little bit. When I first took that piece out of the bags, I thought that it was actually a damaged part. I thought that it was scuffs on the thing. It's that convincing. The design that they put on there is just one single color, but it's pretty nice. This color here is not the typical light bluish gray that you might be used to. It's a lighter gray and not bluish, more just of a neutral color. And you can see some lights showing through. I will, of course, turn off my studio lights as always at some point along the way and let you see what this looks like from the outside and the inside. But first, I want you to see all the major details from the outside. I like the part usage up here. You got some prints for broken glass here. The bay window is actually shaped up pretty nicely, but if this wasn't a haunted house, I think the gaps around the side, the corner columns here would be problematic to me. Being able to see inside there is not something that you want for something that's completely covered up. But given that this is supposed to be a little bit broken up, the gaps there really just don't bother me. And also it's dark enough. Everything's dark enough. There is one light that's out up here, and that's intentional, 100% intentional. That's supposed to be for the spookiness effect of it. I personally would have done something like that. And I think it actually just adds so much life and believability when you don't make everything perfect. Because in the real world, things aren't all perfect. And this is specifically supposed to be all broken down. They even give you 3 other different colors of the cone piece. So you can change out the color of this one that's actually bright, or change out the color of this one over here, like do different things, little miniature minor customizations that you can do there. This light right here is pulsing, slowly pulsing. You've got cracks in the wall all over the place. This easily could have been a fast build because it's a fairly straightforward structure, but it has so many pieces because they have so much variability in the surface texture. Different ways, different somewhat simple techniques, but varied techniques to get different texture all around. Even showing some of the framework in there, maybe some of the internal piping for, I don't know, it's probably not conduit for something of this age, but maybe like gas lines, water lines, something like that. And, the different shapes of cracks in different places, swapping back and forth between different colors. The stairway up the side here is done all kinds of different ways. You can repose some of the creepy kind of vines and things in different ways. There are little windows where you can look through. Right now, as usual, I've got this powered by a USB battery pack there. That's just for my own personal convenience and doing lots and lots of these videos. But this slot down here is where you would put the standard 3 AA battery pack that's included in there. But, again, USB is a perfectly viable option here of any sort, whether it's continuous or battery. There's a little peaking spot where a little bit of light can come through there. The back, usually these are pretty plain around the back, and this one isn't that much of an exception, but at least we get like these different colors in here. You got the windows down here, different colors out to the side as well. They try to they try not to waste too many pieces with these away from the camera, usually hidden areas. They try not to waste too many pieces. They try to use relatively large parts there, but here there's some variety, some variability that's brought into it, which I personally do appreciate. And then you have this full access to the interior. We'll look at most of that with the, first with the lights off, and then, getting in a little bit closer, but you can really see in there. And part of there's a significant room over here that's partly obstructed by this ladder way over here, but you can also move that out of the way. Like, that's so thoughtful. And then all the way up top, this can easily be removed because it's not even attached with any studs. So really, really good access to seeing stuff on the inside. There are also motion features to this with some geared systems that are built partly into the base platform. That I'll show you once we get in a little bit closer. But again, first, I just wanted to give you a general idea of the whole thing that we're dealing with here. It is larger than I expected. I know that the dark red color is just a standard dark red color. A lot of people thought that based on the pictures, it was going to be some brand new red that they came up with that was extra bright. They just had too much saturation in the pictures, but it's just regular dark red, so it's not too striking. I think the color scheme works out pretty well. And that is another printed ghost, a single eye, really creepy ghost over there with a trail coming down behind it. A tall chimney there, and you get all the way up to this upper spire. There's nothing inside here. This is all pretty much solid in this space on this side. You just have access again to this area over here, which has some lights and some spooky things going on inside. Here's what it looks like with most of the lights turned off or down, at least in the room here. This is not super bright. Obviously, when you have absolutely no lights on in a room, your eyes will adjust and it'll look more interesting to you. But if you have any lights on in the room, it's not gonna shine quite to the degree that you would expect, or that you might see in renders or marketing photos, where they're using really good camera lenses that are giving you that extra bright effect. But this is kind of a realistic look at it. I like the lights on this quite a bit. I like the fact that it's not trying to be super bright. It's not like yelling at you. There are a couple things in this that I think were done less tasteful than they could have been. This little bit of green down here that's peeking through is really nice. And let me go ahead and open that up again and show it to you from a lower angle. There's actually a wire that you can see coming through there. Most of the wires in this are tucked away pretty darn well, I'd say, but this actually, it's just kind of cool to see a little bit of that coming through. But for the most part, you see it kind of peeking through the grate on the window over there. Through these windows on the back, you can see a little bit. There is a TV that's actually on. You can see just a little bit every once in a while. You get a little peek of some lighting on the inside. There's also light underneath here. So this is one of the ones that I personally don't like. I think it's not done in the most tasteful way. Sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble with the focus there. It's very difficult when it's dark, but it was just flashing. it's just flashing continually. It shows up here on top a little bit and down here, and it's just like, it doesn't feel natural or supernatural at all. All right, there's one other light in this that actually acts that same way as well. But looking through here is good. This is a nice little space. If you get up real close in there, you can see that one single light up top. You can also see things inside here. Yeah, you can kind of see there's another blinking light inside of that room, whatever's going on in there. And yeah, you can definitely see through the bay window and through this major upper window without having to take anything apart. So, this is definitely something that encourages you to get up close to it and peek inside, stuff like this. And that's exactly how I think this should be presented. You do have the access on the back, but just kind of looking at it as an outside observer, I think is fun. I forgot to mention over on this side of the house, there's kind of a broken out wall section here. It's a little bit tight, but there's another little spot where you can peek through something that's broken open. Here it is around the back, again, without trying to make it look any brighter than it objectively is. Again, if you have a very dark room with almost no light in there, your eyes will adjust and things might look a little bit brighter to you than this. When I turn the lights back on in the space, I'll go ahead and take the different levels of the house off so you can fully see all of the details. But you see a little bit of light from the TV back there in the corner, and that's cycling through some different colors, and it has some static that is on the screen. And just focusing on the lights, like you've got the small light over in this passageway here, but also behind this bookcase, there's that green light, and that is in this hidden space where you open that up, and then there's another ghost back inside of there. So this area is haunted. I can kind of turn that towards us just a little bit. There we go. Yep. So that's that ghost. And then there's a grandfather's clock over on this side, which gives people access to the secret passage, which is where the ladder is. And then that second floor, it's so creaky. That's the restroom. And this is beautifully designed and beautifully built. But unfortunately, that blinking light right there, that's what that is. So it's supposed to represent, some supernatural green gas that's coming up through the sewer system. And yeah, that's not a good look. That really should have been slowly pulsing. It should have gone from 20% brightness up to 100, or maybe even just like 75% brightness, and then just slowly pulse back and forth. If they could even have some randomness in the circuit, that would have been ideal. So it wouldn't always be the same, but blinking like that, strobe style, not that great. Again, we'll come back and look at this once the lights are fully back on and everything. The lamp in that corner though is absolute perfection. The color of it is cream, and it's slightly translucent, and with the position of the LED in there, it is just perfection. I mean, that I've never seen a brick built lamp that looks that good, that looks that believable. And then over here, you got the fireplace with some green light in that, looking like a Flu Network entry. And yeah, that's just full brightness, no special effects there. And then finally, coming up to the upper level, you've got this candle over here, and they give you an alternate color for the flame. They give you green, so you can swap that out if you want to have the consistency of green flame coming through there. And this space is not particularly well lit. Most of the light that you're seeing right now is actually from my studio lights, because I have a little bit on so that you can see that. But again, depending upon your lighting situation in your space, I think it looks pretty good. All right, here it is with more light. So you've got some gems around the side of I call it a hexagonal pentagram. You could just call it a hexagram, but no, I'm calling it a hexagonal pentagram because it's supposed to represent a pentagram on the ground, but the closest part that they have has 6 sides. Rows over there, a couple of gems. This is like a crystal ball, and then there's a knife on one of the other sides. Actually, it's 3 gems in total that are purple, and evidently this is a semi-reincarnation of some sort of spirit. I don't know exactly if this is actually being called forth, or if they're trying to send it back to the other side. But that thing's pretty creepy. It does have a printed headpiece and a printed chest piece. The whole build is smoke colored, so like a transparent dark brown color. There's a printed piece back over here. I don't know exactly what that's supposed to represent, but it has a nice print on it. It's just a little bit difficult to see. Again, this candle is on top of a pumpkin back there. The book, by the way, the book has a print as well. Let me go ahead and see if I can get a little bit better focus there. So the outside of the book says Forbidden Power. That's nice. And then you open it up and it's like, you shouldn't have done that. You should not have done that. I'm going to go ahead and take this whole floor off because you can simply do that. And again, I will continue to call this out for a little while. They have fixed this piece. Viewers have told me that I'm like the only person in the world to have called out the major issue that either this piece or the part that it connects to has had. It was a very annoying issue where oftentimes this part here would get stuck. This is what has the electrical connection between different floors, so you don't have to have wires going through there. This piece would get stuck on that one. If you didn't do it very, very carefully, it would get stuck, and then it would start pulling these wires off, and then you'd have to get your hand under there and very carefully correct it before it starts to rip things apart. Like it was very, very annoying on every single multi-level build that they did. And somehow, from what I understand, I'm at least one of the very few people in the world to have called that out on a regular basis, which is really strange. Every single reviewer should have been calling that out because it was a consistent problem, at least throughout this entire region. At least all the ones that came to North America were like that. But they fixed it. So good on Lumibricks once again for doing the right thing, for improving over time, for catching and accepting their mistakes and fixing them. So that's no longer an issue. So this is a super creepy bedroom over here with, again, more prints. This is actually a UV print. A lot of the prints in this are pad prints, the more flat and smooth ones that cost more. But their UV print, again, the cheaper system, production quality has increased significantly from the first sets that I got from this company. It's just so much more crisp around the edges. Like it's really, really good quality for production stuff. It's actually very nice to see that. But a lot of these things are using pad prints now, which is even smoother and nicer. I like how, you got the duvet cover that's kind of flowing off to the side, all that asymmetry, suggestions of toys around here. The creepy printed teddy bear. You got prints on the wall over here where stuff has been painted up. This is off kilter to the side. The build of the phone was awesome. The build of the fireplace is nice. The build of this ornate frame around this additional picture up there is also very nice. The crib is creepy as heck and good, like well shaped. I liked putting in the curtains there, the drapes as well. Once again, you can see more just differences in the color. This is only a single stud wide, only a single brick wide, but they've done a good job of using structural pieces that have good colors so that when you see stuff from the other side, there are things that are done over here to connect all these things on the outside. But then over here, well, some of it's hidden away and some of it just looks fine. Again, from either side. So that's done pretty nicely. This door obviously can be open, and that just takes you over to what is the restroom, which, you got a print right here. There are 4 prints on the ground, which is ridiculous. There did not need to be 4 different printed pieces down there. The toilet, we already talked about that, but the toilet build is very nice. It's much more compact than I expected for how many pieces were going into it. Much more compact. You even got the lever on the side. You got the plunger. Old school style of tub is done pretty nicely. Pretty simple, but definitely works. Looks pretty good. Printed towel over here. That didn't have to be printed. So they did another print there. Print for this broken window or broken mirror over here, which is a little bit scratched up. Well, actually what it is it's foggy, right? From the place being steamed up from actually using the tub and stuff. I call that out for a very specific reason, which will make sense to you in a minute. Let me go ahead and close this back up. It's so funny that is squeaky like that. It's not intended to be, but it really works for this context here. This can close up, and then I can just take this level off once again. There we go. bunch of prints down here on the floor, which is creepy and nasty looking stuff. You got a rat over here who's going after a partially rotten apple, I'm assuming is what that's supposed to represent. This is built up so nicely over here with some small details, including some more additional prints inside of there. And you see how this opens up just part way. You could actually move some stuff out of the way to allow that to be opened even farther. And just a minute ago, I was mentioning the mirror, right? Why I called out the fact that that is frosted. Most of the time, most companies do frosted mirrors at best. But these guys have introduced back to brick building chrome, actual electroplated mirror chrome. So that mirror right there is working as a full-on mirror. So they have the ability to do this again. I think that costs even more as a process. So it's a luxury that they included one of those, and I think it's done with intent that they would make this one more properly mirrored like that compared to the one in the bathroom. Nice details down here with still a little bit of space to pose minifigures around. However, very few studs. Very few places to attach minifig feet to this. That's still something that is missing. And I know that this company, like all, receives conflicting feedback from big fans, especially adult fans of brick building things. A lot of people say, hey, I want my surfaces to be clean. I don't want to see a single stud on this stud-based brick building system. So then, a company trying to accommodate its fans and fans of brick building in general might end up with no studs. But they have a couple studs here, and that's because the floorboards here are kind of wobbly. They're a little off. So you can put a figure on there, and then it'll kind of move back and forth. And also that chair back there. So I'm going to go ahead and move the grandfather's clock back. Close that up. That chair moves with it. So that's part of the motion features, action features that they've built in. I'm just using this knob right here. That's what that is. So you've got a cam system over here. It's like a crankshaft, a 4-cylinder inline crankshaft. And then you've got a worm gear over there. It turns that around with all the creepy stuff coming out of it. So you can have somebody who's potentially trapped over there, or, do the reveal. You can leave some of those things off. It's entirely up to you. But, it's just a little extra thing that they did that makes the place more special and more interesting. Again, you can see all the detail up on the walls, and good integration of connections for outside pieces, outside connected vines and such, without making it look bad on the inside. And the TV shows the static pattern on it, and it's just going through some different colors slowly and smoothly. Now that one could have actually had a little bit of strobe effect, a little bit of a kind of a lightning, more of a sharp static animation just to its brightness. Instead, it's just going through a continuous cycle of different colors. I don't know if they're using ready-made. They probably are using ready-made circuits and that have limits to how many are available. But hopefully, over time, they'll be able to get access to better supplies of more appropriate animation effects for their special lights. But so far, that one there's fine. I just didn't like the ones that simply blink on and off. So that was the full teardown. Well, maybe not full teardown, but the closest to full teardown without having to really start taking anything apart. The most complete, fair takedown, I think, that you would expect, or teardown that you would expect anyone to ever do. But these days you don't need to do that. You can see as a regular person who's, when you're not operating a camera and trying to worry about focus and everything, just with our own eyes, typically a person who has this in their space would just open up the back. The pin here actually stuck. It's supposed to stay over there. It's not a big deal to lock it in. Would just open up the back, and you can see all the details in there. You can move this off to the side, and you can see the details in there. You can open this up. You can see the details in there. That's really all that you need. And looking through the windows. Now, I think this little ghost busting vehicle here is absolutely appropriate. it matches the Ghostbusters theme of going with something improvised, you know, that you wouldn't necessarily expect to be set up for high-tech and supernatural activities. Got the small little wheel in the back. You see the little exhaust, tiny little exhaust there. And I can imagine that this was originally used as either a small delivery vehicle, and possibly in small towns, or converted over for municipal use as a small street sweeper or sidewalk sweeper. Oftentimes, so some machine with a shape like this would have a big tank in the back, and there'd be a vacuum in between, which really works for me for the metaphor of it being something that, you know, is for sucking up paranormal activity and taking the ghosts in the back. That print and the same one on the other side, not so great though. You know, the quality of the white there, clearly a little bit thin right there. But you got the accessories on the sides. Have to imagine that this would be powered. You know, I wish that there was something to clip onto it to just kind of represent a capacitor bank or something. You know, they would power it up. So it's not just a basic butterfly net. And then you've got a print over here. You got a print over here. Those don't open up, but this does open up back there like so. That's a piece we haven't seen, I don't think, ever done in that particular color before. Access, though, to putting the figures in is rough. It's rough. So you got to take this off, I believe. And then what I would want to do is just take this off, right? And then put people in. But because of the way that the Lumibricks figures are designed, they actually have to be attached. By the way, what is 1953? Anybody know what 1953 is about? They have to be attached with their feet forward. So Lumi has just recently started doing that. I figured out a way to get their figures to actually sit. But here, what I need to do is actually rip the whole front end off. Look at that. Rip the whole front end off. And he's got that one single foot that's attached underneath the dash. So that's what's required to get a person in there. The other person was just kind of sitting there. So that's very, very awkward. You know, they're doing what they can with what they have, but they are working on redesigning their figures. They have said that recently. But here, at least you can see the additional print towards the front there. There might be a suggestion that should be the other way around. If you want to put yours upside down or right side up, whatever you consider it, that's perfectly fine. But, you know, it's just a print. And then this is what it looks like without any figures in there. So this, you know, it doesn't take that much work to take it apart. It is just awkward to have to do that. And then just toss this back up on the top. But I think this thing is cool. It's definitely a worthy addition. And eventually, hopefully, we'll get versions of these doors from them that don't include prints as well. And you can just use it around town as a delivery vehicle. Take some of the extra stuff off and use it. They also do come with this Ghostbusting little small build that can be held in the hand, and that has a print there. Pretty simple, but, you know, looks pretty good. I think it might actually, I would probably turn it like this, just so that you can see that kind of hook shape, the little tongs there. You can imagine that being, yeah, just are starting to arc up electricity, and the electricity comes out. Store those back here as well. I think they will fit in. Yeah, no problem. And then there's a closer look at all three of the included figures. So I'm assuming this is the owner of the house, or maybe realtor or something. I don't know. Obviously, just a regular citizen. And here you have your two ghost-busting individuals with actually pretty darn good graphic design for all of them. I mean, I like the motion here and the disheveled clothes. It's just unfortunate the prints aren't the best in quality in how they are applied. Just the production work isn't so great. Like over here, this is supposed to be the same tan between the plastic color and the print that's on there. And you can see just how far off it is. Maybe I have this hairpiece off just a little bit as well, but like the white isn't completely opaque. Some people like these figures, some people don't. You know, it is what it is, but these are the ones that are included. Then finally, there's some leftover stuff, a couple of extra web accessory pieces on the runner over here. I mentioned earlier the extra cone pieces that you can swap out the lenses on the lamps on the front with. And then here's your alternate color for one of the flames. You can use that one up in the attic. And then they have this whole entire pile of additional leaf pieces in two colors to replace all of the fall or autumn colored leaves on the outside of the entire building. I personally prefer the more realistic colors that are on there right now, but this is what they would look like when they're swapped out. I'm not going to swap them on the real thing because, again, it's a whole lot of pieces to switch, and that would only be for showing it just for a few seconds in this video. And then I'd have to put them back because, like I said, I want to to put them back. And I know the fact that I'm saying this right now, it guarantees that there will be folks who are like, this is the only thing that I wanted to see in the entire video was you swapping out these to the other colors. So you suck, Jang. Sorry. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Again, this is over 2,600 pieces, the retail price being $130 US when the fixed version comes back into stock, when they get those produced and get them distributed. You should not be able to pay more than 117 US for it because discount codes are always everywhere, all over the place. And yeah, that's just kind of where it's at. But again, retail price, $130 US. This is a lot of stuff. This is a very significant build. I saw that it was on a 32 by 32 plate, in the pictures and everything. I thought I had a good idea of its size, but the whole foundation of it is raised more than it looked like to me. It's thicker down there. And then the height of each floor is just a little bit greater than I thought. I also, for some reason, didn't realize that it goes all the way to the edges. I thought that there was like a little bit of gap. I was thinking of maybe the back having this little bit of gap. And for some reason, mentally, I thought I went around. So ultimately, my expectations were of something slightly smaller, like 10 to 15% smaller than this. So, part of that's my own fault, but ultimately, it's a lot. This is a very large, significant house on a 32 by 32 base. It has so much detail to it. It's well designed. I'm happy with it. This is not my sort of thing. I'm not into spooky stuff. I'm not into Halloween theming, but I really, really respect the work that went into this. I'm happy to have built it. It feels good. As for things that I think are bad about it, I already mentioned the blinking lights that should be pulsing instead. The fact that you've got just a little bit of overhang over here. So even though it does use the standard width, if you do put something right next to it that happens to go right up to the edge, you're going to need to do some modification, at least take some of these pieces off here. They could have done something about that. And there's a thing here, which I've intentionally just left, just not mentioned up to this point. I don't want to put a lot of focus on it, but this, from a cultural perspective, as someone who grew up in America, this is bad. That shouldn't be there. Unfortunately, it's just made from bricks, right? So I could just leave it off, or I could just separate the two studs there and just have it hanging straight down or something. Maybe attach a ghost to the bottom of it. That's just a cultural thing, and I'm not mad at them at all for just missing that. There are other connotations that are also bad with that, but yeah, it's a small thing, and I recognize that. Around the world, there are different cultural things that we just don't know about each other and about each other's histories, as different countries and groups of people and everything. And that's all good. And that's going to continue to happen. From a cultural perspective, though, I will say they've done a good thing here, progressing forward, of not putting a bunch of writing all over it. Right? That's another thing that Lumibricks has kind of gotten wrong up to this point, is putting too much writing, and especially wrong typefaces that are kind of period inappropriate, or things that just kind of take you out of the immersion. They were very, very subtle with that. It does have some writing prints on there. You got the spell book up top and everything, but not a lot. That feels good. That feels right. But there are a ton of prints throughout this, and I appreciate them. A lot of them are really good. A lot of them are really useful for other things. If you wanted to take these parts and use them for custom creations, in spite of this being a spooky themed whole entire build, a lot of the exclusive prints to this one can be used outside of the context of a spooky themed build. So just a lot of wins. The routing of the wires was pretty good. It's pretty tight. The worst problem that I had with the wire routing was, I think there were two spots where it felt a little bit short. I was able to get enough slack to make it work, but they're definitely leaning towards having just enough wire as opposed to having a bunch of excess. There are a couple spots where there's a little bit of excess, just kind of folded away a little bit. It's very, very difficult from a production perspective, mass production, to get that right consistently, because when you do assemblies, sometimes it's just not going to be the same. And you have that many things, that many components that are soldered together in ultimately a single cable, a single ribbon. Every single one has its tolerances. So getting that right is extraordinarily difficult. And they're definitely within the range. They've done the work. They used to have some things that are definitely too tight, some things that are definitely way too loose. They're getting closer and closer and closer. They're zooming in. They're homing in on on as good as you can possibly get there. So again, just more proof of progress and a relentless dedication to doing the best that they can, making the best products that they can is what I personally see. I don't know these people, these Lumibricks people. I don't know them personally. I don't know where they come from. I don't know what their backgrounds are. I don't know what their personalities are. I just see their work and I see the public communications from the company, and I like what I see, including with this set right here. So I hope that I've brought you some value with this video. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for your time, your patience. Thank you to all the folks who use my affiliate links in the video description. It helps me out so much, especially as the core companies to focus on for this channel are putting out more and more and more and more sets rapidly. So yeah, it's each one doesn't cost that much for how much you get, but it does add up, and you're helping me to be able to continue to cover those costs and to be able to keep going and put even a little bit more time into this channel here. So thank you very much. And even just for watching up to this point, I appreciate it. And I'll talk to you again soon. Bye for now.